In today's episode, I'll be giving my review and reaction to the 2017 film Blade Runner 2049 or Blade Runner 2049, whatever you prefer. Let's run some blades and get back into Blade Runner, this time in 2049.
Do something, man. People are questioning you. Shut up. Shut up.
Okay, yep, do that. Sure, guys. Stupid and dumb. Just an idiot. Get your shit together, son. Fuck it. I loved it. Welcome to the DubCast. If you check out my Blade Runner review, not Blade Runner 2049, you would know that I had high expectations heading into this film. This film's at the top of my watch lists. You know, I'm a freak organization wise, where I have every movie listed out in the order I want to watch them, you know, priority list, etc. This was at the top of my list for a very long time. And I have to say, this movie disappointed me a little bit. If you know my history with the director, Denis Villeneuve, we've done a bunch of his movies on this channel, reviews. One of his movies, Arrival, is still one of the highest ranking reviews on the channel. We did both the Dune reviews on this channel, and this is the fourth one we've done so far. Obviously, I've seen other Denis Villeneuve movies, Prisoners. I have to, recall the memory a little bit. But Prisoners, both the Dune movies. I'm gonna see Dune 3. He's in my Mount Rushmore. He's in my top four. I think Nolan's number one. But then it might be Denis, and I know I'm probably just mispronouncing his name. Also watched Incendies, which I won't be getting a review. That was actually fail. I didn't like Incendies. I fell asleep during Incendies. Enemy was hit or miss. Like Christopher Nolan goes bar for bar. Like he doesn't have any misses in my opinion. Denis, he might have a miss or two. That being said, Sicario is still on the top of my watch list. So Blade Runner I thought was good. It was a good film, right? I don't think it was all that it's meant up to be. And just like I was saying with the Flight review, now Ryan Gosling and all the scenes of him being like lonely and depressed, it's making and I had the ending spoiled before I even knew what it was. Because that scene is also making its rounds on TikTok. But this is like I was saying, Blade Runner. It's kind of like almost cult classic where it's like everyone hypes up these Blade Runner movies. You got to see Blade Runner 2049. The graphics are insane. Big Ryan Gosling movie where, I've added Drive to my list in the meantime. I watched Fracture and wasn't that impressed. You can go check out check out that movie review with Ryan Gosling. I don't know. Like, I'm gonna have this is a decent movie. It's not what I was expecting though. Like, I wanted to see more. I was hoping for more. I think this movie is a little bit too long. 2 hours and 43 minutes was too much time, in my opinion. Obviously, you have Denis, so you have his stacked cast: Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford, Ana de Armas is a big part of this movie. Joining in also are Dave Bautista and Jared Leto, which I don't even remember them being in this movie, but it is what it is. So enough time on that. Let's get into the real meat and bones of this, my thoughts and reactions throughout the movie. So as you guys know, I always love to start these out with the initial start of the movie because that sets the pace. That's the hook, that's what they'd always tell you in English class. You got to have a good hook. So Tyrell Corp, we're picking up from Blade Runner 1. If you cared about Blade Runner 1, you don't need to watch you don't need to watch the 19 movies. You don't need to watch the 1980 movie Blade Runner to keep up with this, but it's like nice context. I explained that all in Blade Runner. Tyrell Corp, they went bankrupt, but there are now replicants. There are now no new replicants. So we saw at the end of Blade Runner 1 where Harrison Ford ran away with Rachel. That was seemingly the last of the replicants, and Nexus died too. So yeah, it seemed like that was it for them. They were running out of time, nothing left. So no new replicants, right? But there are still older models out there, and they are still hunted by the Blade Runners. So that's kind of the premise of this one. I don't know. This one was a little bit harder to follow than the first Blade Runner, obviously, and I mentioned the first Blade Runner being hard to follow in general. So, starting off the bat, our main character is Kay, and he's kind of this lonely guy. He goes home to his, on a life version of Ana de Armas, who's like this, I guess, sort of comfort robot for people, and he's very lonely, but he's able to get the upper hand on Dave Bautista right off the bat, so you're impressed. Holy shit, K is a Blade Runner. He's got his shit together. He can get the upper hand on Dave Bautista, who's, I think Dave Bautista, now I'm remembering, is a little bit like a replicant or something at the beginning. I don't know, this shit was long, man. Yeah, and he's got the relationship with the virtual girl. I have to say though, if you were to date a virtual girl, at least it's Ana de Armas, right? It could be a lot worse, man. Ana de Armas. We saw her in Ballerina. I think everyone out there knows what I'm saying. Anyways, so turns out in Dave Bautista's backyard there was a replicant buried, and this person was pregnant and has a connection to Deckard. So I wonder who it could possibly be. Um, which I guess is a good plot device because if you don't need to watch the first one to like know that this is important, but you also like could just watch the first one and be like, oh shit, now I know Deckard's. This is probably Rachel, right? So there you go. And we meet. So as I'm saying, I don't remember who these people are. I actually took notes in them. So maybe read your notes before you start the review, idiot. But I thought Jared Leto was actually perfect casting for this Wallace type character. So I mentioned Detroit Become Human in my Blade Runner review. This kind of reminds me of that video game where you have like the creator who's like kind of almost larger than life in their ideals, right? And they're kind of this like weird off-brand character. That kind of reminded me of Jared Leto, or Jared Leto being that. I thought was good casting for this Wallace type character. And then he slices up the new model. Very jarring scene. I didn't love that scene at all. I don't know. I know we're not meant to empathize with Jared Leto's character at all or Wallace at all, but I don't like seeing people being sliced open. Just like I mentioned that in the eye gouging of the original Blade Runner movie. So moving on, we have the Wallace sidekick chick, as I call her. She's kind of this hunter throughout the movie, chasing down Kay and chasing down this lead of the buried replicant. Kills the actor who plays Zemo with one tap after taking the bones, and Zemo's kind of this like hospital guy or researcher guy, but that's crazy aura. Just tapping someone once and you're dead. I don't want to mess with that. Um, we're introduced to another hype actor, Lenny James of Walking Dead fame, Morgan, protein bars, you know the bill, you know the drill. And he was hype in this movie. I thought he did a good job. This being the place from his childhood story, interesting, and the horse. And we find out through Kay that Kay is pissed about being a real person. Come on, man, you want to be a replicant? Come on. And this part was confusing. Like he's a replicant, he's not a replicant, he's a real person, he's not a real person. I don't know. So he runs into this part was like the middle third of the movie was like, come on, dude. It was kind of boring. I was a little bit lost. He meets Deckard, who is pretty stingy at first, of course, in classic Harrison Ford fashion, but then doesn't want to talk much about the baby and Rachel. And it was his plan that they had to leave with Rachel, and then Rachel ended up dying. It's so confusing how Rachel ends up buried in this dude's backyard. I don't know. And then there's this whole memory about Kay being the hidden child through like memory sequences, but he's not actually the hidden child, so that part was a little bit confusing as well, where it's like this got supposed to be this gotcha moment, but this wasn't like Prisoners to me. I just didn't really know what was going on. So it turns out they made Rachel again just for her to have the wrong colored eyes, and Deckard immediately notices it, so doesn't go for the bait on taking a deal with Wallace and his people. And then we get to the big absurd last fight scene with Kay taking a bunch of hits, but taking out Love, L-U-V, and freeing Deckard. So Kay is able to do the mission, free Deckard, and happy ending, right? No, because Kay dies in the steps as Deckard meets his daughter. What a whirlwind. Yeah, I couldn't even explain what just happened. So good luck with all that. So overall, I thought this was a solid movie. Not the best, not the worst. I think the graphics are insane. This is a good Denis Villeneuve, a decent Denis Villeneuve movie. I'm giving it a 7.9, maybe a little bit too high after reading my review on it, but I did like some parts of this. I thought the beginning was pretty solid. I thought the ending was pretty good. It was just kind of that middle that was like a little bit makes you get lost. And I'm sure this would do better on a rewatch where you're like really locked in on what's going on. You know some of the backgrounds. So maybe the more you watch it, the better it gets. So where does this movie compare to the other movies reviewed so far on the DubCast? At a 7.9. This comes in at number 33, and this is movie review number 80, tying with Bullet Train, 310 to Yuma, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Dead Poet Society. I take this movie over all of them besides Bullet Train. Bullet Train's fire. So obviously all 7.9s. This one being slightly better than most of them at that. This is the fourth Denis Villeneuve movie I mentioned or I've reviewed so far, as mentioned before. This does fall behind number one right now, Arrival 9.6, Dune 2, which is a 9.0, and Dune, which is an 8.6. Dave Bautista being in both the Dune movies as well, so there's an actor comparison point right there. This beats out Fracture, which is a 6.5, Ryan Gosling movie, and this is the new highest scoring Harrison Ford movie, beating out the original Blade Runner by 6.7. I do think this movie was much better than the original Blade Runner because that was just kind of weird. And this one's more futuristic, like I mentioned in that review, being in 2017 and then seeing the future from there, rather than being in 1982 and seeing the future from there. And CGI, made a big impact for this one. Also beats out Captain America: Brave New World. Obviously, Harrison Ford being in both of those movies, that was a 5.8. 7.9 becomes the new best Harrison Ford movie. Anna de Armas movies. This beats out Ballerina. Obviously, she was the star of that, kind of a side character in this one, but that was a 7.7, so new best Anna de Armas movie. Lenny James beats out Snatch, 7.5, so new best Lenny James movie. And finally, beats out The Little Thing, 7.6, Jared Leto movie, so new best Jared Leto movie, Blade Runner 2049. And that's a review. So what do you guys think? I'm sure I'll get blasted in the comments in this one because everyone loves this movie for some reason, but I thought it was just fine. 7.9 is still a pretty good score. So yeah, that's where we're at on Blade Runner 2049. Coming up next, we have some great reviews, Legend and Predator Badlands. So stay on the lookout for those two. Usual channel updates. We got NFL streams happening weekly. UFC when it happens. Maybe splitting those into two different podcasts with Shane. We'll talk about that more. And as the new year comes, 2026 is here, so let's do it on the DubCast. And I'll leave you out with that. As always, be easy, y'all.